Okay. Okay, we're going to get started. We're running behind schedule, so we're going to put the lightning back into lightning talks and really move this along quickly. We're going to have a quick word from the last word from one of our sponsors, Gavin. Come on up. From Ezoic.
Yeah, I'll keep it super short as I know we're on a tight schedule. And I already gave my spiel or presentation this morning. But I think I've heard a few murmurs in the crowd today about people who are concerned about monetizing their content properly and earning more. Is that fair to say? Fair to say. So one of the forgotten parts about this is user experience and engagement. So what you may not know is where the ads go on your site, the combination, how many ads go on the page, size, location, color, ad type. This can all have a dramatic impact on how users interact with your site and how much you earn. So Ezoic allows you to test all that easily to ensure you're delivering an experience where users actually want to spend more time on your site, and that allows you to make the most out of the users that arrive there and earn more. So if you want to learn more and I haven't spoke to you yet, definitely grab me before the conference ends today. Love to chat. And that's all I wanted to say. Hope everyone has had a good time, and hopefully see you for drinks tonight.
Great, thank you. Can you put the microphone back up? All right, so first up is Ted Williams, publisher of Charlotte Agenda. And I know some people came specifically to hear Ted, and I think that's a testament to kind of the buzz about what they've been able to accomplish. He's going to talk about how they got to $1 million in revenue in just a couple of years. So let's hear it for Ted. And if you could leave some time for questions, because I know there's going to be some.
Okay, great. Thanks. So it was probably 2.5 years ago. I was working at a Metro newspaper in the digital strategy group. And I came home and I talked to my wife. I said, I'm so sick of giving PowerPoint decks that the executive, like the mothership executive team, doesn't really care about. So, and I felt like tomorrow's media companies are being born right now, and they often look kind of dumb and silly. And then you realize, oh wait, everyone's looking at them, and this is what the future of media looks like. And so we're sitting there. It was the back little sunroom of our house, and I was going crazy. We were eating pasta. My 3-month-old son, I think, was crying. I was like, yeah, listen, I'm stuck in this cube, and everyone else is out there building. Vice, Vox, BuzzFeed. People are out there building what the future looks like, and I'm giving PowerPoint decks. And so ended up quitting my job. And my wife was like, Ted, you either got to shut up or go and do this. And so I quit a job that I loved and started the Charlotte Agenda. And I want to tell you quickly just about the founding story to kind of show you how I thought about the economics of everything. Because not a lot of people share money stuff, and I think sharing that is key. So the original seed money came from our personal savings. So we were very stressed out. I brought a $50,000 check to the Bank of America in uptown Charlotte to fund everything, and was going to slowly burn through that 50 grand over the course of, I think it was seven months. And so had one presenting sponsor, but I didn't want to sell ads for the first 7 months, because like any type of media company, I wanted to grow audience first and then sell ad slots later. So it's $50,000, super stressed out. Those 7 months sucked because we were building audience at the same time, trying to put together ad deals that would then kick in January 1st of 2016. I think one of the key things in launching is we did ad seats. I'm a big believer in creating false scarcity. So I think the internet, there's no scarcity. And so, we went out and said in 2016, we're only going to have 20 partners. That's it. And so we stopped selling after that. And so I think to have that type of seat sales strategy really helped us out. So want to kind of run you through our business model mix. So about 70% of our revenue comes from annual sponsorship deals. Those deals are typically between $20,000 and $90,000. We specifically, and I think this is really key, we try to not work with small businesses. I think that's very odd. And we try to work with clients that spend a lot of media dollars. Because I believe if you're a small business, Facebook and Google have better ad products. And so they're actually going to be a better buy for a small business. And so we try to work with spenders who are spending $300,000 plus in annual media spend. And what is interesting about that is it makes the sales hard. Because like selling to big people, you got to find out what group works there. They're going to be like, oh, you're a local media company. That's kind of a joke. We don't spend money there, blah, blah, blah. So you've got to slowly work your way into those larger groups. We found that our sales cycle, is typically 12 months. So that's a 12-month sales cycle. We just signed a big car dealership group, and we were probably working on it for 18 months. So you have to have a certain patience and a certain business model to get that set up. So that's about 70% of our revenue. We launched a membership program because people wanted to give us money, like an NPR style thing. And so it was super easy. It's just it was modeled after Gimlet Media. It's give $5. If you pay for the year, you get a T-shirt. And now it's probably a $30,000, $40,000 annualized revenue item for us. And I think what's interesting about that is we spend very little time on it. There's not a lot of good return on effort. We could do a much better job, but even if we double our membership, that's not going to be a material driver of revenue. And so I think that was key in the way that we think about where we're spending our time. So we have that. We launched a job board. We did a job of the day in our newsletter. People started sending emails saying, I want to be job of the day. And so then I spent $1,000 building out a job board that looked decent. Because if you look at other local media sites, TV, and newspaper, they have deals with CareerBuilder and Monster. So their job section sucks. And so like if you're a smart human, you're like, this is stupid. And so we've just built a dead simple job board, $200 to post a job. And that's now probably a $150,000 revenue item for us. And we do featured events, and that's a $300 revenue item for us. Those are automated. We try not to have anyone talk to humans, because we try to automate those ad products and then try to work on larger ad deals. One of the biggest breakthroughs that we've had as an organization was implementing a minimum spend. So we said, everyone needs to spend $10,000, and we're not going to work on deals that are under $10,000. So that meant turning away a lot of business, because we were doing sponsored content pieces for $2,000, and the calories burned there was unbelievable, and it kept you from doing the hard stuff. The hard stuff is going to try to land a $40,000 annual deal. That's really freaking hard. You can get someone to write about your, to spend $2,000 to write about their retail shop, but it's not a sustainable, it's not a very good business. It's maybe a freelance business or a one-person shop. But I think, one of the key takeaways is we went into this thinking, I went into this specifically with the business model. And I said, we're going to reach 25 to 45-year-olds in Charlotte with a conversational tone. We're going to reach a certain scale where we're reaching 10% of that segment. Ends up being about 300,000 to 500,000 people. And we're going to monetize through big brand deals with companies that want to reach the next generation of Charlotte. So having that clear business model really allowed us to focus all of our energy around that. One other quick thing, in 2017, we only decided to do one new thing. I was getting paralysis. It sucks, try to decide. I mean, in media, when things are working, you want to do everything. And you're seeing all these different revenue opportunities pop up. But we only did one new thing in 2017. That was a newcomer's guide. And it was something where we get the problem a lot. I just moved to the Charlotte area. Can you send me a link to be like, hey, this is the things you need to know. And so we actually thought that print, there it is, right there. There it is. So we actually thought that that's the one use case where print makes sense. I think print's stupid. Nobody needs, I think print as a media vehicle is pretty bad, but print as a media vehicle for an annual guide is really good. And so that was the one new product that we launched, and it was probably it was $118,000 revenue item, and we did 10,000 printed copies. and put it on the site also. So I wanted to just kind of vomit everything out there and would love to take questions. But I think the really key takeaway is focusing on return on effort. We think of, I mean, it sounds like a cheesy business school thing, but we think about what type of effort are we putting into stuff and what is the return on that. I didn't talk about our edit side. It's really freaking good. I think our journalism is great. The way we go deep into topics that other people don't. To give you a specific use case, dating. We cover dating in Charlotte well. It's important to a lot of people who are dating. And so that's something where, those are just key pockets where if you're a metro newspaper, you're not going to have a dating beat. And so, we're able to go in and really, from a smart perspective, program media and content to that where there's no competition because they're all doing the same type of crappy stuff.
Okay, we have questions.
Yeah. Sure.
People at home watch.
Can you tell me about the cycle you go through, like on one of your big clients, like a $40,000 client?
Yes.
Where does it start, and what do you do like over that year?
So I slowly stalk people. So there's a jewelry store, and I was trying to find, and then we had an initial meeting. I hunted them down on LinkedIn, and then I found the junior marketing coordinator person, and so I walked in. I was like, hey, I love your brand. We need to work together at some point. So got a second meeting, and then got a third meeting with a decision maker. But a lot of the times, we're getting inbound leads, and we just take advantage of that like freaking crazy. Because outbound, it doesn't really work just because local is so small. So if you spend a lot of money, you're not going to, none of us have large enough sites for big guys to care that much. So if they don't understand the depth at which you reach people, it's not effective. But any type of sales stuff, it's awful. Slowly stalking, figuring it out, weaseling your way in, and then providing a ton of value and focusing on retaining customers through great customer service. And whoever put their neck out on the line to say yes to us, we want to make sure they get promoted at their job and that type of stuff.
How do you distribute your posted newcomer guide?
We gave it to HR teams who posted it on the job board. So we really targeted new people to Charlotte. So we did 30 apartment complexes, HR teams that were hiring. So when they made a new hire from out of town, they would get the guide. They were all free. So ads. We're big ad people.
So that was profitable?
Yeah. So
Highly profitable?
I think our expenses were the high 40s, so let's round up to 50.
How did you initially grow your Instagram, and what level did you have to get it to before you could start monetizing it for your partners?
So our Instagram, we initially grew it because no one else is doing news, because you couldn't have links. And so if you're a newspaper, you think like the 3 inches right in front of your face. And so, we were the only people doing news there. So we were able to grow quickly, and it's just been, we spend a lot of time on it. So that's, the major portion of one person's job. We have 6 full-time people. So if you think about it, that's probably 60% of one of those people's job. I would say it's only in the past 6 months or a year, and now we're seeing everyone wants to be on it. They don't care about the website. I haven't got a question about display ads in like 2 years. Nobody cares. They want to be on our Instagram handle. So now it's turned into an enormous asset. But it took 2.5 years of slow growth, and only in the past 6 months to a year, that's what people want first. And for people that don't know, we probably have 83,000 Instagram followers. That's a lot for like not a celebrity or whatever. It's a lot for a local media company. And we do sponsored content on there. So we'll do a car video to a cool shot for something else.
Hi, you just answered a little bit of my question, but I wanted to know, when you're getting these high money sponsorships or partnerships with companies, you're obviously doing more than just giving them display ads.
Yes.
So I wonder if you could run through the list of benefits that
Sure.
you offer a sponsor or a
Sure.
partner.
So we do text ads in our newsletter.
Not
Text-
too slowly, because we do have to stay on schedule.
Text
We have
ads
time
in
for
our
one more question
newsletter,
after this.
display advertising, sponsored content, Instagram posts, and giveaways on Instagram. Trying to think of other stuff. Can you, Lizzie, anything I'm missing that's core to whatever we do? That's about it. I mean, a lot of it is around sponsored content. Written, we work with advertisers on video. So, sticking on my car dealer, we're doing monthly videos for them where we guarantee 10,000 views, and we'll bring a car out to a really cool spot in Charlotte. So we'll do like a really fun video around, hey, we're taking this Tahoe to the pumpkin patch, and here are the 3 tips at the pumpkin patch, and put the pumpkins in your Tahoe. And so like we make really fun, cool videos. I mean, it's modeled after BuzzFeed. I mean, I think they do a great job with the way that they run sponsored content and the way they charge a ton of money. And like, if you're a smart media buyer, it's hard to buy stuff that doesn't cost a lot of money. I know that sounds weird, but you end up having better sales success when you charge a lot.
So I'm afraid we have time for just one more question from Jason here. Are you going to be around afterwards if people want to?
Yeah.
For a little bit? Okay.
Is your target demographic in Charlotte growing or shrinking? And what research did you do to find out what they want to see?
It is growing. So Charlotte, I mean, we got lucky. You know, Charlotte's a great metro. It doesn't have any of the smart national guys. So Vox doesn't have a Curbed and Eater there. So like, there's none of the smart people are there. So you have like a metro newspaper. It's only going to shrink. TV. I don't know who watches local TV. People do. But you know, we got really lucky where we have a booming metro, competition that's just only going to get smaller. In terms of research, we did no research. Not a huge believer in research. I mean, it's just like either it intuitively works. I mean, it's media. I mean, media is fun. I think that it's a lot of it's about art, and people know when you're like a data loser that's like just trying to, you know, crunch the numbers on stuff. So we did no research, but we're all in that. You know, we produce stuff for our friends. So that's, you know, everything from, you know, a voting guide to a construction update on this cool craft brewery spot that's going in.
I say we get Jesse and Damien back up here and we'll have a throwdown about research. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, moving right along. Next up is Daryl Holliday from City Bureau, who we heard a little bit from earlier today. I guarantee that you will get something that you can learn from and take back and do at your shop, nonprofit or for-profit, out of this talk. So, no, he's going to be.
Oh, you do that, okay.
That is me. While we're doing this, I am Daryl Holliday. I'm one of the co-founders of City Bureau. I'm going to be exceptionally brief because I spoke earlier, also because I love the Q&A part, so if there is time. Oh, sure thing. I'm going to go really fast.
All right, Connie. I'm just figuring out where the present button is in that. So we just need to get it to present.
Should I go one by one? That's fine. I can do it straight from here as well.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, like I said, I'm one of the co-founders and editorial directors of City Bureau. We are a civic media lab based here in Chicago on the South Side. We started our organization in 2015 to address what I think is an ongoing crisis in journalism that really needs direct action. We saw 4 interrelated problems, one being an inequitable, misrepresentative local reporting, a lack of diverse perspectives in newsrooms, distrust of media, especially within communities of color, and unsustainable media business models. Our work is designed to break down barriers between news producers and consumers, between learning journalism and doing it, and between communities and power. And I'm happy to go into the details of these later. We do that through journalism that is designed to support civic engagement, through youth media mentoring, i.e. we send our reporters out to a youth media space once a week to share skills, and through live events and public trainings. So quickly, we run 3 programs. One is a 10-week reporting fellowship that pays what we call emerging journalists and more experienced reporters to collaborate on stories, and those products then are the products of collaborations with other news outlets. So we partner with groups across the country, really, but especially here in Chicago. The second program that we run year-round is our public newsroom. It's very much what it sounds like in a lot of ways. We open up our physical newsroom space once a week to the public and bring in a variety of folks to host really hands-on workshops. It's open to the public. It's really a space, I think this earlier, but a space where journalists not only are accountable to the public, but can learn how to be increasingly accountable to the public. Third, and this is the one where I want to pivot a bit and kind of spend more time on, is our Documentas Program. In a nutshell, we pay and train people in the community to document public events and do various other tasks that feed back into our newsroom and back to local communities. For one, it's addressing the information gap present in Chicago. We have a city that is very geographically segregated, so our work focusing on the south and west sides is one to address communities that I really believe do not feel like they've been spoken to, largely spoken about historically in the city. So by offering small stipends and trainings like trainings in FOIA, interviewing, audio recording, video recording, note-taking, all the skills that journalists have and use on a regular basis, but democratized. So when I talk about journalists learning how to give their power away, it's largely based on skills, the things that we know how to do, the access that we have, providing structures that allow for people to also access those skills that power those people. Quickly, how the Documentas Program works. We have an open application that can be accessed by anyone. Once you apply, folks are eligible to access City Bureau skills and trainings. Once they come to an orientation or do one of the trainings, they are able to access paid assignments. The documentation that Documentas produce is made public. Members of the public become documenters. But we had to address, and this is really work that we are invested in right now and kind of working through. So I added these slides midway because I was told that rather than just giving a big overview of City Bureau, people would like to really dig more into the mechanics of some of these programs. So I'd love feedback if anyone has any ideas about how this might work. We can talk later. I'll be here for a bit. We started with a set of questions. Namely, can we know where every single public meeting is in Chicago if we want to send documenters to document those public meetings? 2, could we attend or have a presence in every single one of those public meetings? These answers are yes. The first one is easy, and I'll get to that in a second. The second one requires really a groundswell of people who want to be engaged in civic processes and have not often been invited to the table. We're providing the mechanisms by which they can get engaged, some of the incentive in which to do that. So we began thinking about what tools we needed in order to accomplish these first 2 goals. One of them is the Public Meetings Aggregator. In Chicago, there are public governmental meetings happening on a daily basis, many of which are not reported on, many of which are not attended. There also is no single place where you can find every public meeting happening in Chicago. As we began to think about the Documentas Program, we realized that if we wanted to really flood journalism with people in the community, we needed to figure out a way to have all of these events happening on a single calendar to ease the deployment and coordination of people to those meetings. That became the aggregator that we partnered with ProPublica Illinois on, which we are steadily working on now. It is essentially a collection of scrapers that standardize and eventually will be sharing out these public meetings to news organizations, to community groups interested in civic action, and to folks who want to engage in these meetings themselves. Really quick timeline. This has all been happening in the last year for us. So we began the program in April 2016. We are still in the process of user testing. So that really means for us a very active program of sending people out to public meetings, shaping what kind of notes information they bring back so that it's standardized, so that that information becomes essentially data that we can see across time and across all community meetings. We hosted a design-a-thon to further engage the public in the process of this open source tool. And in the beginning of next year, we are speaking with different cities and towns to figure out how this aggregator could be used in other places, how documenters can be leveraged in other cities, and small towns and states. I wanted to end with a quick give-get. Like I said, I'll be here for a while. I'd love to keep talking. One thing that we can offer, some insights on how to open a newsroom up to the public. Tips and thoughts on what collaborations look like on a really mechanical level, as in, you know, these collaborations are often, they often make work harder, honestly. They're really amazing. I believe the future is collaboration, but how do you really do them successfully is what we spend a lot of time thinking about lately. And new ways to engage folks in the process of journalism. So one other thing I would like to talk about as well is information on public governmental meetings in your town. As we begin building these aggregator tools and figuring out ways to expand Documentas Program, we're looking in places like Detroit, like Philly, but I'm really wondering what that process looks like in smaller municipalities. I think that's the end.
Hey, so can we have a show of hands? How many people do that? How many people have like, are letting their readers know about all of those government meetings? A couple? It can be a daunting task, I would think, right?
Yeah.
All right, so questions? Okay, lots of questions.
What's your output once you gather the stories and information that you get?
What do documenters bring back, essentially?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the point that we're at right now, so I'm glad you asked. We have essentially a meetings notes template, so we're asking really basic questions like, who was there? How many people were at this meeting? With the idea being that if we were to have these notes for every meeting, that in aggregate is really good information. We get a little bit deeper in the questions too, a little bit subjective. You will want to know what solutions were raised at the meeting. You know, what are the next steps? That right now we are collecting all of it internally and kind of reshaping it. But the next step is to figure out what format the public wants that information in. You know, so do we just stream all of the meeting notes, all of the answers? Do we curate it and contextualize it and turn them into stories? These are all questions that I would love to talk about.
I do a lot of attending the community meetings.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, to write the story is a lot of work when you're attending all these meetings that are sometimes 2 to 3 hours long.
Right.
Versus video. What your document is, what form do you usually take it in? Just write reporting or video or audio?
It depends on the need. So the trainings that we do, like I said, are audio recording, video recording, such and such, social media. Sometimes we'll have them just go and live tweet meetings. Sometimes we'll have them go and live stream the meeting, so there'll be video. It ranges, and I think that is the interesting part for documenters. I get to utilize a lot of different skills. But kind of what I was saying earlier too, I don't think that news outlets have to do literally everything. You can engage the public to do some of that really ground level work with you, and take that and do the work of journalists, which is really contextualizing, providing information, fact checking. But that partnership, I think, could be strengthened with a program like Documenters.
So actually, a couple of things. My first question is, so are you training them to ask questions while they are at these meetings?
We do offer training on interviewing, but I will say that it really is not the focus. We aren't trying to create journalists from community members. It's really more about democratizing the skills that journalists have and letting people use them in the ways that they need to in their daily lives. You know, I often say that, like, well, did I answer your question a bit?
Yeah,
we do offer the
yeah,
interviewing,
yeah,
yes. And we do offer a workshop in how to interview, community members, politicians, but those usually aren't the focus of the output.
And you said this was open source, so is it open to the Chicago Tribune or the Sun-Times reporters to help inform their reporting?
The Documentas production?
Yes.
That's a good question. Because what I know is that we've had a lot of interest from kind of smaller publications, ProPublica on the larger end. Those kind of groups want it. Community groups, ones that are doing organizer in the city, are also very interested. I'm less interested in providing this information to the Tribune for free than I am providing it for free to community groups.
Gotcha.
I'd rather pull like a Robin Hood here. If we can have groups that can pay for it in order to help people do work, that's where I'm at. So those are the questions that we're asking and formulating right now, so that when we get to January and we look at where does this go next, Detroit is looking very promising. We have talked through those questions with the public, with people in the space such as yourself, so that we can really do a good job at it.
Cool. Here's my give. Sabu Vincent, he's at Stanford. He was a former JSK fellow. He's been working on a tool to collect documents from these public meetings and so forth, and storing them and making that open source too, but we can talk about that more later.
Yeah, that applies, definitely.
There's some synergy there.
Great, so we got Marcy up there. We have time probably for one other question beyond that.
I'm just wondering, what kind of people are you using as documenters? We have thought from time to time about having local people report on local meetings, but there's always a concern about what kind of bias the person brings into the meeting if they're there to be objective. So I'm wondering, are you using students, are you using community activists, are you using grown-ups rather than students? Do you have any criteria for selecting the people that you send out?
No. I also am not concerned about bias. How we do it, the application is open to everyone. So right now, we have, I think by December, we'll have 300 people who have applied to enroll. Right now, it's about at 280, and it's been going about average one new person every couple of days or so, on average. So they come from 50 of Chicago's 77 community areas. Their ages 15 to 73, I think, right now. Wide array of race, income, interests, and that's what I want. I want the widest pool possible. I do not want simply people who have interest in any one topic or any one approach. The way we take care of, I think, the bias is again, this is not about turning people into journalists. It's about having people go out and use the skills that journalists have to really collect and document the processes that are impacting their lives, the big decisions that are being made by politicians, so on. That information often comes back to our newsroom. Our reporting fellows, they do the work of journalists, as in, thinking about the context and the fact checking. But documenters, we don't intend them to force them into a path that they may not already be on. It's really about how do we increase civic engagement and incentivize people to do that work through respecting their time, paying them $15 an hour to cover a 3-hour meeting that's $45 on our end. It's not going to break the bank. What comes back is highly valuable information that really no one has.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thanks. All right. Okay, great. So we're our last lightning talk of the day, and then we're going to move to breakout sessions. And remember, we've got unconference sessions that are pretty interesting that have bubbled up just from what people have reacted to. So I'd like to introduce Kevin Grant of the GroundTruth Project to talk about Report for America.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here. I'm Kevin Grant. I'm co-founder and executive editor of the GroundTruth Project. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm just going to sort of have this website, which is the reportforamerica.org website, in the background while I talk. And I'm just going to kind of riff a little bit because I'm hoping I can stay interesting for 7 minutes, and then we'll do 7 minutes of Q&A. So a little bit about my background. I'm actually a Chicago area guy. I worked in local news early in my career. I took a brief foray into tech and the dot-com space. Then through sort of a twist of fate and the Great Recession, I ended up in graduate school at USC Annenberg in Los Angeles. That's where I found my sort of calling as an international journalist. I met up with Charlie Sennett, co-founder of Global Post, and ended up doing about 4 years in Global Post, working on a sort of nonprofit model within an international news site. We won a bunch of awards. I got to travel the world. We led a number of teams, mostly emerging journalists, working in countries from Egypt to Burma to Kenya to India, and the list goes on. And I really found my passion as a professional in helping that next generation as somebody who had a hard time finding my own path in journalism. So we are all about sort of paying it forward. And so out of Global Post came the GroundTruth Project. That's an independent 501c3 based at WGBH in Boston. We launched that in 2014. That continues now. So I'm still the co-founder of that. But Report for America is something that sort of emerges out of an understanding that a lot of us had last year, which was that not only is journalism in crisis, but it would seem that our democracy is in crisis as a direct correlation with that crisis in journalism. So Report for America is our effort to create a national movement of journalism as public service. We have a big goal, which is that within 5 years, we seek to place 1,000 emerging journalists in newsrooms across the country. And I'd like to spend a couple minutes just telling you a little bit more about how we think that's going to work. It starts with a pilot year. That's 2018. We will bring 12 reporters into local newsrooms. Appalachia is our first region, so we're working with 3 terrific publications. That's West Virginia Public Broadcasting, that's the Lexington Herald Leader, and the Charleston Mail Gazette, or Gazette Mail as the case may be. These 3 newsrooms are going to each take 1 reporter, working sort of collaboratively and to essentially do journalism that these publications would not be able to do otherwise in West Virginia and in this case in Eastern Kentucky. So for us, this is about that sort of spirit of journalism as public service, which I think we all sort of get intuitively, that the reason that we got into journalism in the first place is because we wanted to help our society. We wanted to do something good. And so this comes out of that idealistic, almost ridiculously not idealistic sort of sense that journalism can be seen as a public service again in a way that much of the public no longer seems to think it is. So, you know, we start with sort of modest ambitions in the sense that it's just the 12 reporters next year, but then we ramp up to 25 or 28 reporters the following year in 2019. And then our third year is sort of our big sort of leap year. Our ramp up is to 250 reporters in year 3. So far, how does this all work? We have early support from Google News Lab, the Lenfest Institute, the Knight Foundation, and some other great funders. And for us, the secret to this all really working is that we have to expand the sort of overall pie of nonprofit funding. So that's bringing in some of the usual players of national funders who we appreciate very much. But it's also sort of activating regional and local funders to bring together sort of a pie of the cost of this reporting position. So we're working on sort of a 50, 25, 25 model, if this makes sense. It's 50% national funding that Report for America sort of corrals. The local newsrooms are responsible for bringing forward 25% of the cost of the position out of their own budget. And then we'll work with the local publication to raise the extra 25% from a local or regional funder. And so far, we're seeing a lot of interest in this. We announced this thing just about a month ago at the Google News Lab Summit in Silicon Valley. Since we did that, we've had 150 newsrooms already get in touch with us through the sort of Join the Movement button on the website. That's a lot of newsrooms, and we expect to have a whole lot more. Something that we haven't really announced yet, but you all are going to hear this now, is that we have gone ahead and made the official application process sort of live on the website. So if you just were to go under news organizations, there's a place where you can apply. It's not meant to take a whole ton of your time, but it's a way for you to give a little bit more information about how you would actually use a reporter or reporters starting in 2018. And the idea is this is local control, local ownership of these reporting positions. We are creating a national organization to help support this effort, but this is by no means an effort to in any way tell local newsrooms what they should be covering at the local level. Instead, the local newsroom decides, this is how I could best use a reporter. Here are undercovered stories or an undercover beat that I'd like to use this person to do. And a sort of, what you might call a blue chip panel of judges will decide on which of these newsrooms will be selected. We're just closing out our first round of applications for the Appalachia Reporting Project. We have about 300 reporters from across America who have already applied for that piece of it. But just to sort of return to that idea that this is about local control, local management of these reporters who will be under the auspices of the newsroom, with Report for America providing some of the sort of matchmaking, a lot of the training and support that may complement what the newsroom is already providing. We're sort of adamant that every newsroom that gets involved with Report for America has a culture of mentorship. Don't have to have a whole lot of resources, don't have to have a lot of bells and whistles, just has to have a true commitment to supporting and nurturing these early career journalists in their roles. That's really important to us going back to our time at Global Post and at the GroundTruth Project. As I mentioned, we've been working internationally, now we're coming home. So I do want to leave plenty of time for questions, but I am really excited to be here at Lion because I know that you all in this room are very much part of the spirit, are core to the essence of journalism in America. And so therefore we are really interested in working with as many of you as possible in these coming years. We know that this won't be a success without the interest and enthusiasm of local publishers, whether that might be public media, whether that's newspapers, whether that's just innovative, cool digital websites. We're working with the whole gamut in terms of the type of organization, and we're also working with the whole gamut of reporters in terms of, are they primarily writers? Do they also do photography? Do they work in video? And so on. So why don't I just say, please ask me some questions, and thank you so much for your time.
We have time for one really, really good question from up here.
All right, really good question. What are the criteria for the reporters? What training do they already have? Are they journalism students? How do you pick them?
Great question. So the basic criteria, and we're not trying to be too strict on this because talent comes in a lot of different backgrounds. We're looking at roughly 1 to 3 years of journalism experience already, so basic skills, right, in journalism as a reporter, and or having at least a couple years working in other professions where sort of rational thinking, good question answering, asking, good writing, and so on can be applied. So this might be coming from education, this might be coming from science, lots of different backgrounds. Or we're talking also about the Peace Corps, also Teach for America and some of these other national service programs. So we don't want to be too specific about what the criteria is, but for sure, the reporter has to be able to add a lot of value to the newsroom on day one.
Okay, thank you. And hopefully you can track Kevin down afterwards.
I'll be here. All
right, so just a couple housekeeping things. One is a round of applause for Charlotte Ann Lucas and Bill Albert. So for a number of years now, they have provided beyond professional level live streaming of this conference that has extended the reach nationwide to people who can't be here. And Charlotte also runs one of the most innovative local online sites in the country, nowcastsa.org, right? Okay. Which is like a local C-SPAN that not only does government meetings, but community meetings and connects that community with a lot of civic information. Breakout sessions next. If you want more on membership and what Mary Walter Brown was saying, you stay in this room. In room A is going to be connecting students to cover local journalism, and we got 3 really excellent people with different perspectives on that, including Suzanne McBride sitting down here from Columbia College. In room B, we have Podcasting 101, and then in room C, we have the first of a 2-part thing. You could go to either one or both with Andy Boyle from Axios and Google News Lab, and it's going to be very hands-on, great specific training on Google tools and Google News tools.
And in the guidebook app, we've updated that to have the session titles for the unconference sessions, so you can check on those as